listeners that the views and opinions expressed on this show are those of the host and guests and not necessarily the opinions of the owners of Global Communications Network and the operators of this radio.
Today can be the turning point in your life by making a simple decision.
Fundamental questions of navigation. Where am I? Where am I going? And how do I get there from here?
I invite the leaders of our planet to ask themselves these three questions before they make any crucial decisions.
But if you don't make decisions, you're going to stay right where you are.
We are all map makers.
We are in a time of transition.
If we're going to change, we have to change the direction that we're going.
Our planet needs leaders who know where they want to go.
When we change the direction we're going, then we want to make sure we're going in the right direction.
Leaders who can see the big picture.
Because if we're not, we're going to either go backwards or we're going to stay where we are.
Recognizing the psychological and the spiritual shifts and changes that need to be made, often from the inside to the outside.
To be able to shape your future, you have to be willing and able to change your paradigm.
Complex journeys require navigation. The path to the truth is one such journey. This is your GPS. Hairstyling services provided by J.D. Edwards Salon and Spa, Palmdale Shopping Plaza, Madera Street. Accessories provided by Chevette Williamson Jewelry. Standout jewelry for standout women.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to GPS, Global Paradigm Shift on Global 99.5 FM. I'm your host, Michelle Malcolm, and as always, it's a pleasure to be in your company today. Thank you so much for tuning in. So if you are a resident of Grand Bahama, then you definitely want to pay attention to this show, but even if you're not, you should pay attention because what happens in Grand Bahama has direct impact on the entire national economy. And there was a time when Grand Bahama was booming. It pretty much earned its reputation as the second city of the country, and some, Freeport in particular, and some would have argued that it was really more than that. But over the years, we have seen Grand Bahama, Freeport, Grand Bahama, the island itself, diminish to become a shadow of what it once was. And we're hearing a lot of talk about what needs to happen to bring Grand Bahama and bring Freeport back to its glory days. But what will it really take? And is this just more talk and little action, as has been the case for years now? Because what happens in Grand Bahama languish. Joining us today to discuss the plight of Grand Bahama and by extension its impact on the economy of the Bahamas is my favorite Grand Bahamian. Although I can't say it to my family in Grand Bahama yet because they'll get vexed with me. So my favorite Grand Bahamian outside of my family who lives in Grand Bahama. Family, I could get y'all. I'm speaking of none other than C. Alan Johnson, who is, of course, a regular here on GPS, especially when we're talking about matters of interest to the island that he loves so much. C. Alan, welcome back to GPS.
Thank you so much once again for having me. And let me tell you why it's like one of my favorite shows to sit on, because we don't just bring talk, we bring thought. And, most times it's just talk around the issues rather than to the issues. And that's why I enjoy always trying to make myself available for you. So thank you so much for having me.
I appreciate that. I really do appreciate all of the depth that you bring to the show. I can always rely on you to, come with some kind of thought-provoking ideas, even if people don't agree with you. Some people love you, some people hate you, some people are indifferent and in between. But no matter how they feel about you, they have to admit that you can come with something that can make them think. And I guess that's why you got the name critical thinker.
Yep.
Because you come in with something that can make us think. We may not agree with what you're saying, but at the end of the day, you're going to prompt us to think. And that is why I appreciate having you on the show. Welcome back. Now, I said that you're my favorite Grand Bahamian, but I know that you ain't from Grand Bahama. You just adopt Grand Bahama as your home. I can say that. Huh?
There's 3 categories in Grand Bahama. Let me give them for people to understand.
Okay.
Native born, driftwood, and seaweed.
Now, you know what will be the last 2.
Yeah, now, Russ, I'm saying it, but I'm considered driftwood. Let me tell you the difference. Driftwood is where you lodge yourself in, and there's no removing you. Seaweed is you come in with the tide and go out, whatever else, and then you have the driftwood like embeds themselves.
I see.
So what happens is, let me explain to you the way driftwood works.
Ah.
I know of a family of about 5 brothers and sisters. 4 of them were born on Grand Bahama, same mother, same father. One of them, the mother had complications and had to go to New Providence to have a son, and they consider him driftwood because he wasn't born here. So you just can't say your mother, parents, your family from here. You have to be born here. You have to meet all these requirements, or you're a seaweed or driftwood.
Okay, that's the difference. Because when I started working in Bimini, being with people is strange, because even though you're from the Bahamas, that you're from another island, don't think you could just bust up on the island and ice payment. No, use driftwood or seaweed. Yep. Well, I never knew the difference. I thought all two was bad. Now I know the difference. Okay, so Sea Island, I've known Sea Island even though I didn't remember that I knew Sea Island from. We were children. Apparently, we grew up right around the corner from each other.
No, closer to. You live just about 5 feet. Your door is 5 feet off from facing into my door.
But I didn't remember him from that until his brother had to remind us both that that's who we were. And I was like, oh, wow, I didn't realize that was the same person. So anyhow, I digress. So Sea Island is really from New Providence, but is now I understand driftwood in Grand Bahama because he's implanted himself there. And he really think he's from Grand Bahama for real. Whenever we have a conversation, he trying to convince me that I need to, become driftwood in Grand Bahama, and I need to come look at property there, and I need to come make Grand Bahama my home. So Sea Island, I say all that to say that Sea Island is vested in the island of Grand Bahama. He really, really does love that island and has some wonderful ideas as to what needs to happen to help that island to progress to the point where it gets back to at least close to where it once was and beyond. And he has some very innovative ideas as to what needs to happen. Now, of course, at the center of this conversation is the Grand Bahama Port Authority. The Grand Bahama Port Authority plays a central role in the development of Grand Bahama, of Freeport in particular. And there are some who have argued that the Grand Bahama Port Authority has worn out its welcome, that it is no longer playing the role that it was designed to play, that it played back in the day when Grand Bahama and when Freeport was in its heyday. And there has been talk about the government of the Bahamas taking over the port and, all this kind of stuff. And, whether or not the port is meeting its financial obligation as it relates to investment in Freeport and all kind of talk. And I wanted to hear Sea Island's view on all this because I remember when Grand Bahama was in its glory days. And those of you who are too young to know what it was like, Grand Bahama was booming. Freeport was booming. That International Arcade that is now a ghost town, man, look here. That was the place to be. Whether you were a visitor, whether you were a Bahamian, whether you were a business person, an entrepreneur, the International Bazaar was truly an incredible attraction. And if you drive by it now and see what it has come to, and see how much that island has, how much of Freeport in particular, and by extension the other communities have deteriorated over the years, you have to wonder what went wrong. So what happened to the island? How Bahama get ready today?
Nothing went wrong. Believe it or not, Grand Bahama still is what Grand Bahama is.
Okay.
The coding, the activity, and I'm going to measure this and measure my statement on this and says, what happened from the 70s to 2004 was a facade. Okay? It was a facade. Now, from 1955 to 1970, Grand Bahama was an ambitious idea that actually created what you see even today. What you're seeing today is what Grand Bahama started out as. So, in a sense, Grand Bahama have regressed. And so they said wood walks on 4 legs in the morning, 2 legs at midday, and 3 in the evening. A man. That's a riddle we use in my fraternity, Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity. And so essentially, as a child, you're on all fours. As a man, young man, you walk on 2, and in the evening times of your life, you walk with 2 and a cane. That's 3. Grand Bahama is basically prematurely walking with a cane. And so the development of Grand Bahama, it was an industrial town, and let nobody else tells you otherwise. It was a hospitality positive industry. Now, there's a number of hotels. I'm trying to look for them, but there was a number of hotels on Grand Bahama. At least a dozen various different hotels that brought a sense of people to this life, from Royal Oasis to the Memories to Jacktar to the Castaways to the Shalimar. I can't remember all of them right now. I had a list in front of me. I don't know where it went. But that brought an influx of tourism or hospitality into the islands. Then you had the industries, and you had Balco as is known then. You had Franklin Chemicals as is known then. Gisbacati's, I think it was Gisbacati's that was built afterwards in the later part. And you have all of these, the power company and these things to the industry. I want people to understand that the container port and the shipyard came later. The Grand Lucaya, as we know it, that came later. However, the Pelican Point and the Memories Hotel used to be the old Holiday Inn. All of these buildings, everything I almost referred to is built pre-1970. And from the industries down on the Grand Bahama Highway to most of the buildings in Grand Bahama. And when I talk about this, people will always come to me and say, well, what about this one? And what about this one? I'm saying, I'm talking about the hundreds, if not thousands of buildings that was built, from there. Don't come and give me the exception as opposed to the rule. And so there has been no major development on Grand Bahama except for one major building built on the south side, the Grand Lucaya Hotel, the shipyard, the container port. And these are little small increments. And so when you look at the sustainability of what these little things they like to point to as being built, they cannot match the number or the impact that the multitude of even smaller buildings had on this island. And so we've had no real development on this island. And what I mean by a facade, essentially we had some good times. We had multiple nightclubs, we had multiple hotels, we had jobs that is actually flowing in and cascading on building on top of each other. Sir Jack Haywood and Everson George took over of the management of this through an agreement of purchase and management of the city. So essentially what happens then is that they were able to, whenever there was something about to happen, they were able to stop the bleeding almost immediately. You know, if a company was about to leave, they were able to convince them to stay. Development needed to be happening, they were able to allow it to happen to even some smaller degree. And they kind of act as seeds to the development of the island, to individuals. If you could meet with Sir Jack or Everson George and you needed something done, they kind of moved the roadblocks and kind of used their influence in the political realm also to make things happen. And so what happens was you were able to maintain, you know, like you say, you were operating at net zero, where net zero is you lose nothing but you gain nothing. And then essentially what happens is the global economy began to change very slightly. We saw the full impact of it in 2008, but that started closer to 1997 and began to happen. We then had this major impact that came with us called the twin hurricanes that hit us in September of 2004, that had a tremendous impact on our infrastructure and hotels and homes, etc. Those homes, as well as the impact of Grand Bahama, took a hit because they technically had not been materially supported in the way they should have been over decades. And so once it came and it hit us, it began to expose weaknesses in our scheme that we call economic development. The hotel never recovered. The Royal Oasis never technically recovered. And so what then happened is then we then began into this political rhetoric that I'm going to do it, the other one can't do it. That's the back and forth between the PLP and FNF. But let's go back to the infrastructure of Grand Bahama. The infrastructure of Grand Bahama that was built was superior to anything in the region and comparable to the US and Canada in engineering. To the fact that Grand Bahama was built and designed beginning from 1955 for 250,000 people, when vertical building was not even in the picture in the purest sense, meaning that we could get up and expand the infrastructure. Singapore, like I like to use for people for reference, is only square miles larger than Freeport, not larger than Grand Bahama, because I'm speaking about Freeport, the city, because Grand Bahama itself depends on Freeport, the city, once West End somewhat deteriorated, which I'll come back to that. But the infrastructure was built superior. The infrastructure on Grand Bahama has slowly begun deterioration to the point that we are beginning to see scales in the roads. You know, those cracks in the seams, and in communities where grass is beginning to grow, meeting on the two verges coming to the middle. Homes have not been truly upgraded because of the lack of economies over the last 2+ decades. You just live in the house, you don't maintain it. Then individuals begin to move away from Grand Bahama, looking for jobs to support their family, and then when they become embedded in some other locale, they then brought their families left for the United States and Canada and other places, as well as the Bahamas. And so slowly the population began to dissipate out of Grand Bahama. Businesses that were dependent on them for subsistence in Freeport, the small businesses, we call it the CMSMB, which is cottage businesses, at home, and baking, and these other little things you do, sewing and all those other different things that people doing here at homes and stuff, in spite of the beauty salons and stuff. Those are the cottage industries. Then the micro and the small and the medium business, all of them are interchanged as part of an ecosystem, slowly begin to deteriorate. So the road and the infrastructure itself began to deteriorate. Even the sewer system, a lot of people might not know that in certain areas of Grand Bahama, in Lucaya and in Bahamian and other places, the entire development where there's thousands of homes actually is on sewer systems, not septic tanks. And so these things are beginning to fall apart, where people are spending 25, almost like you have people on staff every day right now just to maintain the sewer system, where you just used to go if something happened in a few months from now, whatever, just to make sure the pumps are working every day, changing parts, everything. And so we have not had the needed capital bill or the needed revenue stream within Grand Bahama to have it maintain, whether it's the people maintaining it or the Grand Bahama Port Authority itself, pushing development that has an impact on the infrastructural improvement. And so I put to you that Grand Bahama right now is in ICU, in semi-stable condition, moving to critical.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Not just saying is that, and a lot of people would then say, whose responsibility?
That was my next question.
Right. In all sense, but people have to understand there's something happened on Grand Bahama that called the bend or break speech. Grand Bahama, what was built on Grand Bahama was an involvement with a tremendous amount of foreign investment from Germany, from Canada, from various different places, where people came in and they maintained homes and they live here. And they did a lot of different things. They had businesses and everything. Then came the bend or break speech, which caused an automatic, like literally a mass exodus of foreign residents, foreign investors, foreign whatever out of the country. What happens is at that particular time, when all of these restaurants and hotels and homes and businesses, even where you had individuals ended up with businesses that their former employees had, they sold it to them or just gave it to them in the exodus. And we have basically then maintained that, and that's where Everson George and Sajak individually and collectively was able to maintain, because as those individuals become assimilated into the concept of running their own businesses, we're there to prop them up in any means or fashion. And so essentially what you are seeing now is the fact that Grand Bahama suffered no real growth. And this is a form of cannibalism where you produce 10, right? And so you eat one. And so you use 9 to produce 8, then you eat 1. So you use 7 to produce 6, then you eat 1. And so this is a diminishing return, and this is where we are now, past the net zero type environment. In 2004, basically we began to see the impact in 2005 when St. George, the face of Grand Bahama, the negotiator, the pacifier, the change maker, died. So in his death came a vacuum, and Sajak himself did not possess the understanding of what St. George did. And so essentially no one came in to fill that space. We've had a number of leadership in the Grand Bahama Port Authority as chairman, as president, etc. But they have not been able to bring the fire and the intellectual capital that is needed for Grand Bahama to grow. So we've kind of just been pacing along for going on exactly 2+ decades. Decades if you count 20 up to 2024, but it happened before that. And so essentially, we've had businesses come and go. You have individuals, and because we didn't even have what is called a work skill development regime for the new companies that eventually came in, such as the shipyard and the container port, and some other auxiliary type environment, we never took a deliberate effort to create the necessary skill set. And so now what you have is a high influx of foreigners that is imported to do jobs that Bahamians are capable of doing, but has not been prepared to do. And that's very important because they can be prepared. We always say that Bahamian can do it. They are capable if given the proper training, and we've never made a serious attempt to basically identify these work skills that is needed for Freeport and actually prepare Bahamians. But worse than that, I personally believe that Grand Bahama basically need a reboot, which we're going to talk about. I'm just trying to give people the background. The Hawkesbury Creek Agreement give some responsibility to the Grand Bahama Port Authority, and we can't talk about Grand Bahama without bringing that in context. In August of 1990, it was envisioned that the Grand Bahama Port Authority, as it exists, would devolve into a municipal form of governance by the licensees. And that never happened in 1990 as it's supposed to. Come 1992, the F&M, first time without governing with it, without Progressive Liberal Party came in, and they began to look at what could be done. They opted to delay the implementation of the tax regime that should have been happening from August of 1990 and brought in a law, because I want people to stop saying the Hawkesbury Creek Agreement was modified to give them some extension. The time is exactly the same. The Hawkesbury Creek Agreement is a law. You cannot modify the law without first striking it down. And so since the law still exists, it tells you it has not been modified. However, a law was brought in to delay the sunset of the tax concessions that the Grand Bahama Port Authority and the subsidiary licensees have benefited from. And so essentially, again, it happened later on, I think in 2017 or so, the Progressive Liberal Party came in and they too delayed the 35 years sunset that was given retroactively to 1990 by Hubert Alexander Ingram and the F&M, the Progressive Liberal Party have since extended that sunset to simply say we will delay the implementation of the taxation, because essentially along with that taxation regime came the municipal form of governance, not the local government. And I put to you that local government only happened in the Bahamas is because Mr. Hubert Ingram at the time wanted to grant this sunset pause of this tax implementation of the tax regime by giving us a small substitute called local government, which is extremely local, but no governance. And so what happens then is that that's where we end up with this local government, and some things was done and some agreements was made concerning meeting certain benchmark for certain things to happen. Those benchmark, some can argue, may or may never have been met going back to 1990. But that's a discussion for another day, because in spite of these hindrances or what people may perceive as should have and could have, might have been done, we must look at where we are. And with the expression is what's now, what's new, and what's next. Because
listening to you, C. Allen, one does not get the impression that Grand Bahama's challenges are insurmountable, that they're not fixable. And but they aren't fixable?
No, they are fixable. The problem is fixing it disrupts the status quo. This is the problem.
Here's what I was about to say. You have all of these persons in Parliament representing various communities in Grand Bahama, right? And you would think that with all of the representation that Grand Bahama has in the House of Assembly, even they nowadays even have their own minister with responsibility for the island. And yet, administration after administration, government after government, we hear a lot of talk about what needs to happen to improve the conditions in Grand Bahama. A lot of talk. But it seems that we come to a stalemate for every time. And that talk doesn't ever get to the point where it becomes real action to move the needle.
Can I?
Go ahead, please.
Right. Let me make a statement.
Mm-hmm.
Come pause. Let me make a statement. I remember, I think it was Marcus Aurelius that said something very similar to this. It says, the opinion of 1,000 men is of no value if one knows anything about the subject. The opinion of 1,000 men is of no value if none of them knows anything about the subject.
Mm.
That has been our problem. We have sent 5-year celebrities to the House of Assembly that take advice from individuals that also know nothing. It's the same as Stevie Wonder having a discussion with Ray Charles about the color of the rainbow and having Blind Blake be the judge. It changes nothing. And so the problem is that also by confronting the problems of Grand Bahama, fixing Grand Bahama, causes a devolution of political power and economic influence over the Bahamian economy. And so it's better to let the Port Authority remain in its stagnant state or inactive state, because government itself has acted as a form of suppression by virtue of ignoring or withdrawing whatever is necessary to participate in harmony with the Grand Bahama Port Authority to bring about the changes. Fixing Grand Bahama disrupts the economics. You know, like if we was to fix Grand Bahama within 2 years or so, we could very easily need about 80,000 Bahamians to move to Grand Bahama to support the concept of what Grand Bahama is supposed to be. And a lot of people say, well, why would that be a negative? It'll be higher paying jobs because they will be provided with the skill set that is necessary, working in various new economies. But at the same time, the oligarchs and the plutocrats, the political class and the rich class who control the economy of the Bahamas by virtue of New Providence, by virtue of the harbor, the airports, the fuel, the food stores, the insurance company, all of these different things has not been achieved, but they have not achieved dominance of those particular area in Grand Bahama due to the uniqueness of the Hawkesbury Creek Agreement. And so one then have to understand that there has been some stealth move to take control of these, but each time has been interrupted more so in the last 2 decades for people like me who scream, they come in, they come in, they come in. And so when people ask, so what's wrong with 80,000 people moving? I just want people to consider, if 6,000 people makes up a constituency and you move 80,000 individuals, you could very easily be moving at least 10 constituencies out of New Providence, even 8. Moving that type of dynamics, move the majority of the economic voting power for which you can have influence over out of the reach of the plutocrats and oligarchs. And so it's better to have Grand Bahama suffer its fate until the island becomes somewhat deserted, as opposed to working along with the Grand Bahama Port Authority or any other entity that comes here. This is why, just to interject just before we move there, it scares me when you say that you're going to have the political class who sits in parliament actually have autonomy to do to Grand Bahama what they've done to the other islands in the country. Either through deliberate, either way, they can't help it. They either through inability, or deliberate. And so the difference is, I am of one that we can have a conversation concerning if something has to be done with Grand Bahama. I'm going to talk about establishing a sovereign trust. Let me first say that the Hawkesbury Creek Agreement is already a legitimate trust in the Bahamas, and what do I mean by that? It's a trust that was established to be managed by the Grand Bahama Port Authority through its lease of the land, through cooperation with the licensees, and with involvement of the government that represents the collected people. I want people to know the government is not by itself. So in essence, at one time, the licensees were comprising of 80 to 90% foreigners. Today, we can very easily say 90% of the licensees of the Grand Bahama Port Authority are Bahamians. And so the fact is now, just by virtue of that change, it means that we have 2/3 of the votes that's necessary to do anything on Grand Bahama. And I think that this organization of the licensees has been somewhat deliberate to make sure that they don't come together with either the Port Authority or the government to make changes by which neither of those sides can have control of.
Okay. So,
and so
your video is frozen. So tell you what, let me take a break.
Yes, and I'll exit and come
back.
back.
Let's see if we can get you rebooted. Thank God we can still hear you, but your video is frozen. So we're going to take this break, and then hopefully we'll sort out whatever technical issues you're having, so that we can both see you in real time as well as hear you. So stay with us. This is GPS. We'll be back after these words from our sponsors.
Understanding your microbiome, also known as your gut ecosystem, can change everything you thought you knew about nutrition, digestion, immunity, and metabolism. Keeping your gut ecosystem healthy and balanced is essential. Ultimate Microbiome by Longevity was specifically formulated to optimize this ecosystem. It provides the advanced support your gut needs through prebiotic, probiotic, and postbiotic supplementation. Our unique blend of probiotics includes Lactobacillus and Plantarum, healthy bacteria that can help prevent harmful bacteria from taking over your gut. Increasing your gut's population of beneficial bacteria creates a more balanced gut microbiome, which has been shown to aid in weight loss, skin health, sleep, mood, and may even help with seasonal allergies. Ultimate Microbiome also promotes the production of postbiotics. Postbiotics are key to help regulate your gastrointestinal health. To enhance digestion, Digizyme Multi-Enzyme Complex, a blend of 5 specific enzymes, has been added to Ultimate Microbiome. It can help break down food so your body can better absorb nutrients. Plus, we've added our proprietary I-26 Hyperimmune Egg Powder to aid in the elimination of disease-causing gut bacteria and help your body balance its immune response. Ultimate Microbiome, the scientific, proprietary, and holistic approach to gut health that helps optimize your body's entire gut ecosystem. To learn more, contact your Longevity associate.
Welcome to Sunshine Auto, the hardest place on the planet for rims, tints, and tires.
We are your auto superstore for rims, Lexani, Azaras, True Form, Western, Lux, Fuel, Trackline, Tough, Rough Racing, Velocity, Mud, All-Terrain, and low-profile tires. Cars, homes, and commercial window tinting. At Sunshine Auto, we put God first and customer is king.
Blessed love.
To stay healthy, it's crucial to make sure you get the nutrition you need every day. But it's difficult to get all your recommended vitamins and minerals from food alone. Even in the United States, 94% of people are deficient in at least one nutrient. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 by Longevity is a simple, convenient, and affordable way to help your body get the essential nutrients it needs. It's an advanced plant-driven multivitamin mineral complex that contains certified organic whole foods, trace minerals, and antioxidants. BTT 2.0 supports your body's natural defense system with a proprietary blend of energy-boosting and body-loving nutrients, plus prebiotics, probiotics, amino acids, and enzymes that support digestion. With an unusually high ORAC score of 8,000, you get even more antioxidants to help combat free radicals that can cause damage to your cells. But to get the most benefit and value from any multivitamin, your body must be able to break down the nutrients so you can fully absorb them. Otherwise, they'll just pass through your system without doing any good. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 was specially formulated with synergizing cofactors to ensure you get maximum nutrient absorption. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 is the easiest way to give your body the balance and complete daily vitamin mineral supplement it needs for optimal support of your overall health. To learn more, contact your Longevity associate.
This portion of GPS is brought to you by Tiki Bikini Hut at Junkanoo Beach. Great food, cool tropical drinks, and family fun in the sun.
Welcome back to Okay, I think we're ready now. Welcome back to GPS. Global. Okay, having some challenges here. Welcome back to GPS, Global Paradigm Shift on Global 99.5 FM. Not sure why I'm getting that feedback. Okay. See, Alan's back. I think. The telephone numbers to call in the meantime. 3260-271, 3260-271, 3260-272, 3260-272, and the WhatsApp line 801-0271, 801. What do we have over? That's causing my feedback. Okay, see, Alan, go ahead and finish your thoughts on the picture.
One other point that I kind of left out, and I was thinking while the computer was going, is another major player in town was Sir Albert Miller, the former Deputy Commissioner of Police that served as a influencing force. He was also kind of like big bad.
No, go ahead, keep talking.
Yeah, so, yes, kind of like a fix-it person on Grand Bahama. He was kind of like a go-to person also for a facilitator of things on it. There's a lot of like players on Grand Bahama that made Grand Bahama exactly who it is. And so, for instance, what happens? Sir Albert Miller was also like instrumental in pushing the approval of projects that goes over. And so it was almost like a tripartite agreement in Grand Bahama. When you talk about the Grand Bahama Port Authority, you were talking about Everson George, Sir Albert Miller, and Sir Jack Haywood. Then you had the government, because even any of the ministers and stuff to have anything done would have to basically refer to one of those three individuals. But essentially what has happened is, even though in 1993 the sunset of these clauses was delayed, what happens then is that just topical agreement was made, and no real effort was made for the exploitation of what the Hawksbill Creek Agreement has happened. And I would submit, since the bend or break speech, nothing has happened in Grand Bahama except a maintenance regime. Grand Bahama, the Hawksbill Creek Agreement, is considered one of the most powerful instruments for development that has ever existed, even until today. If you take, for instance, when we were talking about WTO and use an example of a place very close to here, Dominican Republic, it's one of those things that you could utilize to be exempted from the WTO impact, because Dominican Republic has set up many economic zones within Dominican Republic to deal with the WTO, etc. But we had the advantage because, unlike Singapore, I use the expression every time, Singapore is only 30 square miles larger than Freeport, but they have 6 million people there, 2 million citizens. And so we have never really had a conversation on what is necessary for the economic growth of Grand Bahama by anyone in the last 25 years. In the last 5 years of the Progressive Liberal Party from 1987 to 1992, they did not want, and that's why even at sunset occurring in 1990, you had to go in 1993 and retroactively apply it, because it was such a changing subject. It's a subject that diminishes power of anyone, because what happens is not for the power of the country or the power of influence of what this particular zone does, but for the fact that little men whose ambition is greater than their abilities would not be able to flam the people in the cave. And essentially, that has kept us from developing. If you were to actually look at the strength of the Hawksbill Creek Agreement and combine it with the information we have in the 21st century regime we have, for instance, there's a fear of Bahamians in being assimilated and outnumbered. And this is something in a matter of 1 week, with the proper immigration law regulations in place, we could solve, not just for Grand Bahama, but for the entire Bahamas. But nobody wants to talk about that, because Grand Bahama, I just said to you, Grand Bahama could, compared to Singapore, could hold 6 million people if you build vertically. But even today on day one, just with 4 and 8 story buildings, we could easily have 500,000 people or more on Grand Bahama and don't necessarily feel its immediate impact, especially when we use a build as we go type planning for upgrading of our infrastructure, for implementing new infrastructural changes, whatever. But you can't upgrade the infrastructure or talk about building new houses and apartments and other different things without an economic strategy that is necessary to create the taxes or even the inflow into the management company that manages the trust, such as the Grand Bahama Port Authority, to basically do these type of things. And so, but we have never, we have these topical thing where we have, I said, little men sitting on high stools who will come and talk down to us and around us, and when confronted, they begin to get very angry. I can remember during the debate on the last delayed implementation of the taxation regime, where I stood up in the front of that committee and I said to them, here's the Hawksbill Creek Agreement. Here is what your papers say you're looking for. And so let me speak to that. And the person in charge got up and started screaming at the top of their voice, and this is on video, to say, don't you dare come in here to disrupt this. Do not go by the paper, they call it the reference paper, that you have in your hand. Go by what I tell you. So it just tells you that it was just an exercise in fertility, that anyone contribution. Greg Moss and I made a contribution to the actual closed committee, where they promised to make any contribution made to this committee public. They've yet to. And we've explained to them that we must end this grand deception that we call Grand Bahama and have a conversation in true context as to the possibilities of Grand Bahama. Now, the majority of the responsibility of what has not happened on Grand Bahama on the Grand Bahama Port Authority, because what you had there is a regime that depended on strong men, Sir Albert Miller and St. George. and eventually even Sir Jack, through his influence, who passed away. And with all due respect, the children that came in possession of these assets never really was actively involved in its processes to understand the value of what they had gotten. And so what you have is the political class and the oligarchs who exploited their weaknesses in not understanding the weapon, the gun that they held, and that they were to force action on it, the change that they could have an impact on. Nor does the people, and these were the two blames lie, the people of Grand Bahama and the people of the Bahamas, because this agreement is not with the Grand Bahama Port Authority, the licensees, and Grand Bahamians. This agreement is between the Grand Bahama Port Authority, the licensees, and all Bahamians. And so we have, through being disassociated with wanting to know, or the very few people who would simply call to speak or put themselves in the public domain and tell you what they feel, what they believe, and what they heard, never what they know, would actually educate the people as to the possibilities that the three of us can continue to exist in harmony. And any modification should not be one to maintain the status quo, but one to move forward into the future. Grand Bahama is the Bahamas has been designated as the most digitally prepared country in the world. Freeport, there's 202 countries or so in the world, and 192 part of the United Nations. Just imagine the Bahamas being designated as the number one digitally prepared. I didn't say digitally utilized, I said digitally prepared. If Freeport was to be treated as a country, it would be the second most digitally prepared country in the world. So here it is that you have a country that's the most digitally prepared, and you have a location within that country which can be treated as the second most digitally prepared. Yes, superior to Singapore, Estonia, and all these other various different things. Preparedness is not utilization. In the Bahamas, we talk about the data economy, the green economy, the blue economy, the aquamarine economy, the platform economy, circular economy, silver economy, digital economy, conceptual economy, ocean economy, orange economy, or creative economy, the shared economy, and now the new carbon economy. I always have to try to remember those. Every one of those can happen on Freeport or Grand Bahama as a whole. It can't happen everywhere else in the Bahamas. Grand Bahama has the infrastructure or the infrastructure preparedness for instant utilization of these. Nassau has had critical mass where they have more people than they have sense, and the organization of how New Providence is laid out. And so infrastructurally, they are not prepared. It would take almost a decade to basically reconfigure the infrastructure. Grand Bahama, which is still, in spite of its development, is still in a virgin state with a tremendous availability of land in Freeport and Grand Bahama to put the ecosystems that are required for these new digital reality we live in to grow.
So
on
what
Grand
you're suggesting is that the future of the Bahamas has to go through Grand Bahama, or should go through Grand Bahama.
I actually believe the new capital of the Bahamas is the new capital of the Bahamas is Grand Bahama. The argument will be, should we maintain West End as the capital or make Freeport? But for when you talk about digitization of the Bahamian economy, and I speak about digitization of the Bahamian economy, not the garbage we call digitization of government, because the day digitization of government is digitized, and I challenge anyone else in the unions, and most of the unions can't tell you this. We have 40,000 individuals that work directly or indirectly for government right now on our payroll, and that's for the P&P and the contract workers and the temporary workers and the government corporations, like whatever, and the political class. I think they call them parasites that actually exist. Is that if you were to digitize government, you only need 7,200 of them to totally run government in a 21st century environment. And a lot of people are afraid that if you do that, you can't provide jobs because the 5-year celebrities have no reality of the 21st century that began on January 1st, 2001. And so we have spent almost $3 billion over the last 3 decades on technology and can't get a digital document from any government agency. Basically, you can't even get onto the phone, and they got switches now that does that for you automatically. And so, I know I'm being cynical, right? But it's the truth. And I invite intelligent discourse on that particular avenue. But we can upskill those individuals If they're blind, crippled, or crazy, 8 to 80, we can train them what is necessary in the shortest period of time with the technology available to move into these new economic models. And if properly expressed what is going to be available, you wouldn't have to get them to quit. You wouldn't have to argue, you wouldn't have to fire them. They'll quit because that's where the new economy, where we are, it's about less about labor and more about ideas. And so we're smart enough to basically embrace that.
So I have a question that's coming in from one of our WhatsApp texts. It says, "Good day, first time. Can Mr. C. Allen Johnson speak to the landmark ruling of Fred Smith versus the Grand Bahama Port Authority and its impact?"
Now, I am familiar with that, right? But I did know that Fred Smith and Maurice Clinton had gotten some ruling. I don't have exactly in the front of me, right? Mm-hmm. But they did have an impact. We must do a show on that because that's how Fred Smith became the consul to the Grand Bahama Port Authority. The best way to avoid someone from attacking you is to make them a part of you. And they had jointly got some ruling that would have impacted the way business as usual is done in Grand Bahama Port Authority. And I do remember somehow, because there was some indifference between Fred Smith and Maurice Clinton in regards to that, which made Maurice Clinton a pseudo advocate for the Bahamian people, but I don't think he's ever went as far as he was capable of going. And I guess because, again, we live in the same soup bowl of having to exist and cooperate and not getting and pushing and telling the truth like I do, that you could find yourself ostracized and basically an attempt to starve you to death even by the people you're trying to rescue. And so I understand his position. And I also understand Raoul Menard, who used to be considered one of the most profound constitutionalists on the island, and Calvin Kemp was one of the people. These were people I all learned from over the last 25 years of being back on Grand Bahama by basically asking questions and questioning the answers to those questions to get a better understanding as well as with research. And so when I talk about these individuals, including Sir Albert Miller and Sir Jack and Everson George, and I think if anybody else understood true advice, Hubert Ingram and Perry Christie, and now Mr. Brave Davis, I think with all due respect, I think Mr. Hubert Minnis was somewhat detached from Grand Bahama just by listening to his verbiage and those around him. There almost seemed to be a form of contention between what they perceive as who the Grand Bahama Port Authority is. Kind of like what Mr. Fred Mitchell has a form of animosity, for lack of a better word, towards the Grand Bahama Port Authority, but he's in his somewhat statement of colonizing the Bahamas. But what happens is colonization is only when you become submissive rather than utilizing the Hawkesbury Peak Agreement, which provides power for exploitation. And this is why it gave a three-part arrangement, and understand that the Grand Bahama Port Authority is not a entity that's above the laws of the Bahamas. And so Parliament always have the laws to basically subdue any power, and that kind of influences with the use of the Grand Bahama Port Authority against it. Because they can very easily, in the same day, repeal the Deepwater Harbor Act, and there'll be no Hawkesbury Peak Agreement. And so, and we can have a conversation on what that takes. And so this whole idea that the Bahamas government is going to claw some power from the Grand Bahama Port Authority, I would like the legal minds not to talk in the bush, come out in the open, and let's have a discussion as to the impact that will have on not just the Grand Bahama economy or Freeport economy, but on the entire Bahamas, as opposed to let's looking at what is necessary to build or rebuild this regime that had this visionary aspect of it, regardless of whatever corruption people may want to argue behind it, beside the gaming and the gangsters and whatever else. And I'm simply saying is we could look at the bruises of the past, but look at what is left and says, can this be salvaged for the benefit of all Bahamians and for all of those involved? And I am one to believe that it can be done.
Speaking of legal minds, I want to play a clip from one Granville McCartney, who, as you know, is a former cabinet minister under the Hubert Ingram administration and is a practicing attorney, and he has some views as to what more needs to be done to assist Grand Bahama to get back on its feet? Here now is a clip with Grand Bill McCartney.
Has to do with the fact that there's certain infrastructure that needs to be put in place, like the airport, and unless investors see that those things are there, up and running, modernized and efficient, they're going to have some concerns. You don't want to buy a hotel and the people would have difficulty getting here, getting to the hotel, right? So I think infrastructure in Freeport must be enhanced, upgraded, or even repaired. I feel very saddened for the Grand Bahamians, especially those who would have been relying on that. And of course, for the country as a whole, it was disappointing to hear that. I was truly looking forward to that sale coming to fruition. But I would just say, let's not be discouraged, and let's go out there and let's see if we get a bigger and better buyer.
It's an excellent political answer, and it'll be like opening a candy and finding out it's hollow inside. The words are extremely sweet. Let me just say, there's an airport in Grand Bahama, okay? Mm-hmm. There has been and always been. No hurricane took no airport away from here. What we are talking about is facilities for certain accommodations. So when I hear people say there's no airport, the very people who fly into the airport say there's no airport. And I'm wondering, where the hell did they get here? Okay? There's no harbor, there's no whatever. And so if we want to, because we have an airport or one that where you're talking about the runway, whatever can be fixed. When you start talking about the buildings and everything, you're talking about something else. But if you, as a leader of a country, or even the Grand Bahama Port Authority, if you don't understand what an airport is, then you should keep your mouth shut. Okay? Sit down and shut up. I'm simply saying it, and it's just misinformation that causes people to repeat it. You hear people every day on the airport, oh, we don't have an airport, we don't have whatever. I mean, these people flying into the same thing. An airport actually has a definition in commerce concerning the movement of people and the movement of goods and services, and all those things could occur. If you were to actually use the airport for partly what it should play primary purpose for, I wonder how many of the goods would actually need to jump on in the terminal and enjoy a cup of coffee or whatever else. It's the people. An actual terminal building for someone operating the airport, 50% of the revenue from an airport comes from the people who move through the airport, in a medium-sized airport, and up to 80% of the revenue. This is why the whole design of an airport is nothing but a giant shopping mall for revenue. And so when you hear these people talk about no airport, it's pure garbage, because right now you have Sunwing that is landing here. The people land at the airport, come off the plane, passes through whatever they have to, go to their hotel. Nobody hangs out to the airport on arrival. They hang out at the airport or in these so-called buildings or whatever on leaving in their pre-departure and whatever else, and that's where they use the opportunity to extract some wealth from operating expenses from them. Those $5 drinks and those $4 candy bars and whatever else there is. And so if somebody study what an airport is composed of, you'll see that an airport is nothing but a giant mall. So we have what is necessary to utilize for entering. Imagine if somebody's coming, let me tell you something, you want to use the eye for the airport, I'll build a nice wall for the plane to pull up to, some beautiful pictures on the wall. So when they get off the plane, they walk straight through this narrow corridor with all kind of beautiful pictures and videos and stuff, and get in their taxi and cabs and take them to the hotel and do whatever else. When they come back, I'll have a nice pre-clearance area for them to walk through expeditiously, and they'll walk through the same tunnel saying thank you for visiting, get on the plane and leave. Nobody's running around the airport, as we call it, doing anything else of that sort. So we have to remove that argument. So if you remove the airport argument, it then begins to tell you then this must be something else. I can accept the argument that nobody comes here to sleep in their car or in the bushes, but some do. That's an illegal immigration argument we have. but or people who's being forced to now do that because our Grand Bahama economy has not afforded them the ability to afford housing or something else of that sort. But when you start talking about the rooms, they do need a room to sleep in, but nobody comes to Grand Bahama to sleep in a room. The room, you know what, let's fly to Grand Bahama and spend a week there and enjoy the wonderful room that is going to be provided for us. It does not happen. So it becomes very defective in that argument. These are part of a multiple part problem. The problem is there's nothing on Grand Bahama that make it attractive for individuals to come here. And we often combine hospitality and tourism as one and the same. And hospitality is what people feel. And that could be part of the room that they experience, right? But tourism is what people do. And we hear people talk about sports tourism, and religious tourism, and medical tourism, and educational tourism, and these various different things. So that is what they come for. We have not sat down and created a synergy from delivery of the individuals through the airport, to delivery of them to their rooms, to an attraction that makes it a viable destination for individuals to come. How many people you heard say, let's go to Las Vegas, let's go to Disney World, because the rooms there are just so nice. It's garbage. Okay?
Your point is well taken.
So I'm saying what we have is a lack of economics or individuals that understand what Grand Bahama or Freeport and Grand Bahama extension is, and what could be built within this ecosystem to create viable sub-economies to be able to grow and sustain us and make it attractive. And there are some laws that has to be modified. And so when you talk about the Bahamian economy and Grand Bahama as a whole, I always like to use the word Grand Bahama because I don't like to use Freeport. But when we talk about the Grand Bahama Port Authority, we talk about Freeport. But virtue that this is the heart of Grand Bahama, their impact on the entire island, is that there's some modifications of laws that has to be happening. One is the immigration law, like the Brent Simonette law, the enterprise bill. I don't like to call it Brent Simonette law. Sorry, Mr. Simonette. Just they said it, I kind of adopted. Say it long enough, you begin to lie. You begin to believe the lie, or whatever you want to call it. So the enterprise bill is an excellent bill. The problem is, let's use an example. We need to protect the citizenship of the Bahamas. We're complaining with that. We could very easily change the law like that, fix our immigration problem. But we need critical mass on Grand Bahama. We don't have the critical mass needed, in fact, in the entire Bahamas, but they won't fix the immigration law because the people in charge don't need woke citizens. They need slaves, workers, whatever. As they build their economies, they need you as worker ants to do it. So they rather import legally or illegally individuals into the Bahamas to work to serve as workers. I don't know why people believe sending the people who oppress them to Parliament, they're going to create a regime of freedom. You must be crazy. But what happens is that, but we basically could free ourselves because the number is we outnumber them, so they will do what we say once we understand that we could work as a collective. But we must change this. With 25 laws in the Bahamas that has to be changed, and one of them is our intellectual property law. So this enterprise bill was nothing but a gateway for nothing. Because what happens is, if you look at the advantage that we had in Freeport for the technology advancement, you have Donald Trump, an example, who evicted all of these hundreds of thousands of people of IT, top great people out of the country, out of the U.S., because he said that they were an abuse of exploitation and theft of intellectual property and all these different things. So what we were saying to them, because we don't create these technologies that we want to utilize here in the Bahamas, and we haven't created an environment for individuals to come here to create it. But we were saying this, we're going to do the enterprise bill, and those companies in the U.S. their workers are being kicked out because they may have access to the intellectual property. We will tell them, put your intellectual property in the Bahamas so they could steal it from here. That's what we were saying. Because clearly you were saying take it out of the protection regime and rest it here in the open regime and let the people have access because we have no law to protect it. In fact, the Bahamas is somewhat blacklisted, and we see this in the cable channels we watch and the access to things we have on the internet, whether YouTube, is because of the violation of intellectual capital by companies owned by the government of the Bahamas and the majority share owners. And so this is why we're on this blacklist. And so we have to fix a whole lot of things, and we could get rid of our 30% interest in this, our 49% interest over here, and our 60% interest over here, because they are running on legacy systems anyway. You can't embrace the new technology of the future using legacy systems. And so we are in need of an upgrade. When we sold BTC, the argument I was making, which 99.9% of the people miss, was that we needed to preserve this infrastructure as a transition point into the future as we build a new network out. Now we are coming to the end of life, and this is why people are experiencing all kind of problems with their connectivity. You hear Fred Mitchell complain and everything else. It's because the system, like the economy of Grand Bahama and the infrastructure of Grand Bahama, is reaching end of life. But end of life is not dead. And so, again, if we begin to examine Grand Bahama for its potential, we have a sleeping giant that will be the envy of even countries we admire like the United States and Canada.
Okay. We have to take a quick break. Let's do this break. When we come back, we're going to hear from the leader of the opposition, who has some questions as it relates to the Grand Bahama Airport. And we're going to talk about that and more. Grand Bahama center stage in the show today. My guest is C. Alan Johnson. Stay with us. We'll be back.
Your body's immune system is under constant pressure from things like stress, lack of exercise, and toxins in the environment. It's crucial to be proactive and support your immune system with the nutrients it needs to function effectively. But it's often hard to get these nutrients from food alone. Introducing fast-acting Zinc Plus Immune Support by Longevity. Unlike zinc-only supplements, Zinc Plus Immune Support builds on the proven power of zinc and adds complementary nutrients to give your immune system extra support. Vitamin D helps balance the effects of zinc, while our proprietary blend of natural fruit and root extracts provides the extra help your immune system needs to work against daily stressors. And we've included Longevity's exclusive plant-derived minerals to give your body the minerals it needs, but can't get from food alone. And because Zinc Plus Immune Support is delivered in a great-tasting, sugar-free, berry-flavored lozenge, it encourages quicker absorption of all these nutrients into your body. Zinc Plus Immune Support. Zinc plus the extra support your body needs to promote a healthy immune system. To learn more, contact your Longevity associate.
Welcome to Sunshine Auto, the hardest place on the planet for a rim tints and tires.
We are your auto superstore for rims, Lexani, Azaras, Trueform, Western, Lux, Fuel, Trackline, Tough, Rough Racing, Velocity, Mud, All-Terrain, and low-profile tires, cars, homes, and commercial window tinting. At Sunshine Auto, we put God first and customer is king.
Blessed love.
It's gotten harder and harder to get your daily requirement of vital nutrients from food alone. Without additional vitamin and nutrient support, your health and well-being can suffer drastically. That's why Z-Radical was specifically formulated. It combines a blend of antioxidant-rich vitamins, minerals, and botanicals with the protective powers of fucoidan to help fill the gaps from lack of nutrients in your foods. The core of Z-Radical is fucoidan, a naturally occurring polysaccharide that helps stimulate immune reaction, protecting you against inflammation and oxidative stress. We harvest this powerful mineral-rich nutrient from brown seaweed, harvested only from the world's most pristine ocean waters to ensure the purest quality. It's then extracted using cold process technology to ensure maximum levels of bioavailability. Then we add essential vitamins that help to protect your cardiovascular and nervous systems and are crucial for optimal immune and neurological function. Z-Radical also includes a proprietary blend of delicious antioxidant-rich fruits and berries. This great-tasting combination helps your body combat free radical imbalances that can contribute to a variety of degenerative conditions like arthritis and heart disease. Z-Radical. Experience the power of fucoidan with antioxidant-rich berries, 8 essential vitamins, and more to provide you with potent health benefits. To learn more, contact your Longevity associate.
Welcome back to GPS, Global Paradigm Shift on Global 99.5 FM. Michelle Malcolm here, along with my guest, C. Alan Johnson. We're talking about Grand Bahama today and what needs to happen to help get Grand Bahama back to its glory days and beyond. We are streaming live on Facebook on the official Global 99.5 FM page, as well as the official Michelle Malcolm page. And you can also check us out on cable channel 974. Of course, you can call in at 3260271, 3260271, 3260272, 3260272, or WhatsApp line for text messages only 8010271, 8010271. So the leadership of the official opposition recently took to the airwaves saying that they would like some information as relates to the sale of the Grand Bahama Airport. Here now is more on that.
The people of Grand Bahama remain disappointed. The people of Grand Bahama remain frustrated.
January 1st, 2025 is the deadline for the completion of the first phase of Grand Bahama's new world-class airport, according to government officials. As that date swiftly approaches, opposition leader Michael Pintard reveals he and many others joined the public in having no knowledge about the airport's winning bidder.
Investigations. There are a number of persons who are very close to this matter who are in the dark relative to the final selection. And so I would only say that we are cautiously optimistic that they have followed the correct process in arriving at the final potential contractor or public-private partner. And it is our hope that the Deputy Prime Minister, the Davis administration, would sign off once they have checked all of the necessary boxes.
Member of Parliament for East Grand Bahama, Kwesi Thompson, pushes the government to meet with more Grand Bahamians to speak about their many frustrations.
One only needs to look at the comments made by the Grand Bahama Chamber of Commerce president, and that speaks to the frustrations of business owners. It speaks to the frustrations of the ordinary Grand Bahamians. That they have felt and continue to feel left down and left out. And they have requested a meeting with the Prime Minister, and we have still not heard any response yet made from or by the Prime Minister in terms of an agreement to meet with those members of the Chamber of Commerce from Grand Bahama. And again, this is out of frustration. They continue to feel frustrated and disappointed and let down.
Meantime, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Tourism Chester Cooper was on the ground in Grand Bahama earlier this week as he revealed there's been a significant jump in visitor arrivals on that island since November 2022. Cooper believes the newly renovated domestic terminal at the Grand Bahama International Airport is just one of the steps in bringing the island back to life.
And there have been ups and some downs, but we have remained as steadfast and unflagging as the people of Grand Bahama, who epitomizes resilience. Grand Bahama herself has a great product, but the entryways and the accommodations need to be in place to truly make Grand Bahama shine as one of our finest destinations. In addition to upgrading this terminal, it pleases me to tell you that since the formation of the Freeport Airport Development Company, we have made significant progress on the redevelopment of the international airport.
So clearly that was from several weeks ago, but I thought it was important to play during the show for a little bit of background. See, Alan, what are your thoughts on what would have been expressed during that clip?
Gaslighting. Got me questioning my sanity.
Why?
Let me just first say, right? I'm one of those individuals who became extremely frustrated with the FNM and worked my best to make sure that they didn't see the light of day. I then began to, in spite of my biases, even after the election, I began to try to devolve myself of my bias, not one where I'm an ardent PLP, DNA, Coalition of Independent, but just one that simply got frustrated of the lip service. And it wasn't the type of lip service I was expecting.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens was I began to listen to more so the leader of the opposition because he sets the trend. And I must say that he has grown on me because I found that his questions and his contribution have been somewhat substantive in it. But I think for even his contribution and what Kwesi has said is that we don't need our hopes to be suited. And I agree with Mr. Pintard where we need to know date, times, where, and who. There's an expression of nothing for us without us. And essentially from the governing party of the two individuals on Grand Bahama, the Minister of Grand Bahama, the Minister General Ginger Moxie, and Minister Obadiah Wilshcombe, we have not had any real contact with them as a community to talk about what Grand Bahama is, where it is now, what's new, what's new, and what's next. What they do is they've come to us with the very complaint we had at the previous administration with soundbite governance. And nothing for us without us. And we believe that there's sufficient of us on Grand Bahama from the business community and from private sector and otherwise that the collective intelligence of all of us is fast as period to the select few of some of us. And so you're talking about developing an infrastructure. So you talk about the airport, and I just mentioned what will the airport do and what will the rooms do? So we can have jobs doing what? I don't know. So again, we have an economic problem in Grand Bahama that goes beyond the hotel rooms and the airport. The airport that they claim is open. I went to the airport and was prohibited from entering it because I was told it was a construction zone and only individuals coming in or leaving from Sunwing is allowed in it. So, the whole groundbreaking thing and sprinkling water around the building, I think they must have been sprinkling water hoping it finished as opposed to it being finished. And so because nobody domestically arrived there. They still had the other temporary location for flights coming from New Providence and otherwise. And so again, it's gaslighting. It makes good oratory contribution. I call it intellectual public masturbation, making voyeurs of all of us, watching them masturbate intellectually every day.
Oh my God! Yeah.
And so
we
I'm just saying, but let me say, but their contribution is saying, I concur with the questions that the leader of the opposition asks, that we need to know when, where, whatever, because even for those individuals that want to expand into their businesses, has to, for virtue of saying there is no airport in their perspective, wants to know more so not the airport, is when is this nutriment or whatever it is you claim that will act as an attraction for bringing people here. So apparently the government believes that the airport is going to be such significant that people are going to fly in to experience this airport.
We have a caller on the line too. Caller, welcome to GPS.
Good afternoon, Michelle. How are you?
Good, how are you?
To your guest. Michelle, as I'm listening to your guest, I'm amazed because he's the very one who ends up calling this phrase 5 years celebrity. He brought it to our attention. And I'm watching him. Every 5 years, he's jumping from one to the next. He is one creating these celebrities for us. And then when he's disappointed, he tried to create another celebrity. Now he's coming to us. He's coming to us. Having lived in Grand Bahama, among all those celebrities who have been in high office in Grand Bahama as ministers for the last 25 years. For the last 25 years, Grand Bahama has had ministers in the cabinet of the Bahamas. For the last 25 years. And the majority of them were FNLs. They should be the very last people to talk about neglect and what Grand Bahama needs. They were in the pilot seat more than anyone else. More than anyone else. What new they bring to the table? The questions they are now asking. Hey, I know what happened a year or two ago. These are the same questions when you have the driver's seat, when you have the lever in your hand, you have to control the car, to control the plane. You just take nothing, you just sit around, farm around. Now all of a sudden, the smoke is clear.
Right, but don't hang up. Don't hang up.
Everything now.
All right.
And now all of a sudden, the apostle, C.R.M. Johnson, is now bringing to us, trying to create another 5 year will become a 16 year.
Okay.
I don't want him to hang up, Michelle. I want to ask him a question.
Okay. Go ahead.
In 30 years or 20 years that I've been home, have you heard my message change regardless of the administration? One time. Just name one time my message that changed. You know, when people come to me and say, you to see him yesterday, today, and tomorrow, I love it because it reminds me of somebody else who I consider my savior. I've been constant in my argument. The people choose the government they deserve. But each time a government comes in, I present the very same ideas, sometimes adjusted based on the evolvement of technology. And I critique the government that we have. But if you want to talk about the last 30 years of the digital revolution, from 1987 to 1992, it was governed by the PLP, not no MP. Okay? No MP don't run no economy. The government does, influences the economy. From 1987 to 1992, from 1992 to 2002, that's 5 for one, 10 for the other. From 2002 to 2007, that's 10 for the PLP, 10 for the FNM. From 2007 to 2012, it was the FNM. And then from 2012 to 2017, it was the PLP. And then from 2017 to 2021 is the FNM. And I asked him to look constructively at that 30 years, and you'll see a 50-50 split. And so, yes, we've been gaslighted equally. Not by the distribution of MP on this island, because the policy decisions is a government one, not an MP. In fact, your very concept of governance is what has us here today, because you believe MPs do something. Their job, in the purest sense, is to bring policy to the country, not this garbage of cleaning up yards and neighborhoods and handing out food and all that stuff. They have social services for that. They have the Grand Bahama Port Authority for that. They have Ministry of Works for these things, whatever else. So you have MPs under the facade of doing what we are paying people $50 to $60 million a month to do, that because they want to massage you into thinking they're doing something rather than creating policies, rather than running ministries, creating legislation, okay, programs and processes for us to use. What we have is we have these same 5-year celebrities, and yes, I brought you to 5-year celebrities. I brought you to family, friends, lovers, foreigners, and fanatics. Okay? And so I bring you a whole bunch. I have so much of things to introduce. But my message for economic development and empowerment of the people has not changed. And I've challenged every single administration since my existence. And you know what happens? They are able to ignore me through the passive cooperation of the individuals around me, because I am but one. And I could only bring you the message. It says, the Bible told me, don't go into a strong man's house and try to subdue him. And their strength comes from your ignorance of what they're supposed to do. And so we get MPs to go to Parliament, those 5-year celebrities, and say, go and think, okay? And think about policies, think about legislation with consultation with the people, programs and procedures for us to do for ourselves what you're trying to do for us. That's our problem. So you brought to light the problem, and I'm giving you one advice. And I'm simply saying, let me say this. The power of the people is and shall always be greater than the people in power. That didn't come from Brown McCartney. That came from the Irish Spring that I introduced in the DNA that eventually was repeated by Brown McCartney and then was given to him. Thank you.
All right. Caller, welcome to GPS.
Hello, good afternoon, Michelle. How you doing?
Good, how are you?
All is well, and good afternoon to you, caller. I need to know, because I'm in Bahama, I need to know if only me and the caller, the previous caller, could remember exactly what the previous caller was talking about, because he is absolutely right. That previous caller is absolutely right, and we don't need to forget We don't need to forget. Because what we have to understand is you can't be doing what he trying to do, man, that you don't do that.
Well, I shouldn't show the failure. Hold on a second, caller. Let's have a conversation. I shouldn't bring. No. Don't throw rocks and don't throw rocks and run. Stand and take your blows too.
Michelle, all I'm saying is what we are going to need to do is just take it easy and stop playing Forgetful Jones. Because the same thing he's trying to talk about now, we remember it. We know. And the call is absolutely right before me. Now I will hang up and listen to his response.
You know what I like? See, it's amazing, right? When the PLP is in, right now, I'm considered an anti-PLP. And chances are there might be some influence there. When the FNM is in, I'm anti-FNM. Nobody ever says, damn, this man is pro-government. I mean, pro-Bahamians. Because I don't care who got your foot. Listen to me. If I walk into the room and the man has a yellow tennis with a foot on your neck, I will criticize him and say he don't need to be standing on your neck. If the next man comes in with a red tennis and put his foot on your neck, I will say the same thing. My loyalty is not to party. It's to God, family, then country. Not political parties. And I'm saying to you, tell me where, not your opinion, what you feel, what you think, whatever. Tell me where I have conflicted myself in my position in the last 20 years. Just tell me one time. I've advocated against and for parties when they do something correctly. But please don't tell me, because you're being fed, I should shut up. No. I have turned down positions when it didn't benefit all of us. Not for me, for all of us. Because God provides for me every single day. He has never failed me once. And so I don't need to look to no political party to feed me, clothe me, or do whatever. He makes a way. He does it for the birds and the animals. Clearly, he does it for his most intelligent creature ever created. So I don't worry about that. But call back, sit down, call a conclave of all of y'all who may think I disagree. Because chances are, if there's another political party in, you'll probably think I was a genius. Call back and say, here is where you conflicted yourself in the last 20 years. Lunch on me for you and your friends.
Okay. We have a comment on from our Facebook viewer, Matthew Simmons, who says, I have yet to enjoy Grand Bahama as a Grand Bahamian. Matthew, it would be great if you could put a comment to us to what you think would make you enjoy your island more. As opposed to just saying you've yet to enjoy it, what are your thoughts on what needs to happen for you to enjoy it? In the meantime, we're going to take a commercial break. On the other side of the break, we're going to be looking more at Seattle's views of what are real, concrete solutions that we can put into practice right away, sooner than later, as opposed to more talk, because there's been no shortage of that. But the Grand Bahamian people, as Matthew Simmons just pointed out, are not enjoying their island anymore. And they, quite frankly, are tired of all the talks. So what do we really need to do? What can we realistically do now to help the people of Grand Bahama get back on their feet, to help uplift Grand Bahama to where it once was, and to take it even further and embrace this new future that Seattle keeps talking about? That on the other side of the break. Stay with us.
At Lee Air, safety is our #1 priority. Flying since 1996, we offer scheduled flights into Fresh Creek and Mangrove Key Andros and Great Harbor Key, Berry Island, twice daily, 7 days a week. Affordable charter services are also available to anywhere in the Bahamas and the Caribbean. Lee Air Charter Services. Call 225-3267, 702-7127, or 322-1317 for reservations.
Understanding your microbiome, also known as your gut ecosystem, can change everything you thought you knew about nutrition, digestion, immunity, and metabolism. Keeping your gut ecosystem healthy and balanced is essential. Ultimate Microbiome by Longevity was specifically formulated to optimize this ecosystem. It provides the advanced support your gut needs through prebiotic, probiotic, and postbiotic supplementation. Our unique blend of probiotics includes Lactobacillus and Plantarum, healthy bacteria that can help prevent harmful bacteria from taking over your gut. Increasing your gut's population of beneficial bacteria creates a more balanced gut microbiome, which has been shown to aid in weight loss, skin health, sleep, mood, and may even help with seasonal allergies. Ultimate Microbiome also promotes the production of postbiotics. Postbiotics are key to help regulate your gastrointestinal health. To enhance digestion, Digizyme Multi-Enzyme Complex, a blend of 5 specific enzymes, has been added to Ultimate Microbiome. It can help break down food so your body can better absorb nutrients. Plus, we've added our proprietary I-26 Hyperimmune Egg Powder to aid in the elimination of disease-causing gut bacteria and help your body balance its immune response. Ultimate Microbiome, the scientific, proprietary, and holistic approach to gut health that helps optimize your body's entire gut ecosystem. To learn more, contact your longevity associate.
For all your building needs, it's Carib Construction and Project Management on Gladstone Road. We build it all. Schools, homes, hotels, and more, including structures requiring a Phase 3 electrical contractor. We also provide project management services. The first step towards your dream building begins at Carib Construction and Project Management. Call us at 376-1556 or 341-4466.
One of the things I love about the mailboat is their relationship with Bahamas Air. I can earn travel points on my international freight and redeem them when I fly.
For me, online shopping is easy, with mailboat US addresses and regular freight delivery to Nassau. Plus, I can always prepay customs and freight, and they always notify me when my package arrives.
Yeah, a lot of people think the mailboat is just for shipping, but they also offer a safe and secure storage facility at affordable rates, all in a central, convenient location.
We also offer passenger service into Freeport multiple times per week with a seating capacity of over 450 persons. With family movies on large screens, one hot meal included, and on-board lounge for snacks and soft drinks. We're the mailboat. We're bridging people, products, and places.
Executive Printers is your one-stop shop for all your branding and customization needs. Letterheads, envelopes, business cards, invoices, share and gift certificates, rubber stamps, vouchers, funeral programs, brochures, flyers, banners, and promotional items like mugs, water bottles, mouse pads, and key rings, all with personable service and great quality. No project is too small or too large. For great turnaround and competitive pricing, make an executive decision. Call us at 393-5011.
Michelle, before we form, let me close with the last section.
Go ahead, Ciela.
I said I fight for God, family, and country, and I wish individuals like them and others would do the same thing. Let me give them a hint. I wasn't fighting for you. I was fighting for me, because I'm part of my family and my daughters and my wife. That's what I was fighting for. God, family, country, then hopefully you would have benefit if you actually participate and insert yourself through proper prior preparation to prevent any piss-poor performance you may have. And so if you become selfish, you will notice there'll be no country, no party in there, because they are tools like a hammer, okay? They don't build the building. The people do that controls the hammer. And I'm saying to you, we could take control of the political parties, which brings me to what Mr. Michael Pintard has made a demand and a promise to do, and we should seek and encourage him to make sure he keeps his promise, where he said that he will advocate for a system of accountability through action. And we say about what they didn't do, well, one did it, the other did it, and the other people do it. Well, guess what? We will actually have him, by joining him, to set precedents for bringing a level of accountability so that the person should, and when he becomes prime minister, they will then use the same tools that he introduced to hold him accountable. And I'm saying to people, put down your political thing. If you want to know what your party is doing, join Mr. Pintard in demanding that systems of accountability be put in place. Transparency, accountability, integrity, anti-corruption, and the works. You claim you don't like what you've been getting, then do something differently. And so don't look at him as a party person. Look at what he's trying to achieve. And I challenge people to remove their political colors and see that a precedent is about to be set that we can insist that will continue going forward. And so if you put God first and your family, which will primarily include an extended family, the people around you, and country, we could build a better place for all of us to live and enjoy. And for that person who say he didn't enjoy Grand Bahama, join me 827-9700 and become actively involved, because you will be amazed that your sphere of influence is about 16,000 people. Because if you know 5 people that you could influence and they believe what you say, and those 5 people get 5 people, and you reach 5 deep, you'll reach 16,225 people if my math is correct. And so essentially, don't be concerned. Don't let them convince you that you can influence your environment. That's what God put you here. He put you here to have control of the environment, not for the environment to have control of you. And so these guys have stripped God away from you in your behavior, not necessarily in your belief.
Wow. Okay. It seems to me, Alan, that a lot of money has been poured into Grand Bahama. More specifically, I think about the failed sale of that huge elephant of the hotel.
I mean, the swing, the big swing.
Yeah, we get swing part. The narrative was, this sale is going to, this purchase, we're going to spend this money, but it's going to save jobs and save the economy. And
the problem is, you don't have the truth on it. See, here's the problem. You go by what they say. We should go back to pre-1997, before the hotel was built, and ask you who was the president of the company that forced that hotel down the throat of Hutchinson Whampoa. There was somebody who was president of the company with that forced sale. That they had no interest in the hotel, I want people to understand that Hutchinson Whampoa was the largest shipping company in the world. Hutchinson Whampoa is the largest telecommunication company in the world. And Hutchinson Whampoa is the largest hospitality company in the world. That hotel could work if they wanted to. They didn't want it, but they had to give quid pro quo. You wanted to Harvard and do this for us. But you have to understand, guess who was president of the company that sold or the forced sale or forced acquisition of that hotel? You'll never guess who was president of the company in 1997. One Hubert Alexander. And so now he's desperate, and he goes back to the very people who was given the hotel they didn't want, and he says, "Really, are you the guy that made me acquire this piece of property, and the people about to get you, and the mob out there about to get you? And here's our prices." That's why they made a joke and even took the dishes. You must think Hutchinson Whampoa was going to do with some dishes and stuff they kept. The food in the freezer when we bought the hotel. It's a joke. They were showing just how corrupt, and this is what the word corrupt means, unfit for its purpose, whether it's what you do or whether it's what you don't do. And they were showing that, look, they got us back. How we say, we have this game called Last, the game in the Bahamas? They didn't take Last. And that's how we end up back with the hotel, okay? We can have another conversation concerning the airport. The airport was another convoluted deal that happened between the Grand Bahama Port Authority and Hutchinson Whampoa, what they're supposed to do. The Grand Bahama Port Authority didn't do what they're supposed to do, because, again, the one thing that's missing, you want me to tell you the one thing that's missing on Grand Bahama?
Make it quick, because we have a call this week.
Leadership. And because they didn't have the leadership to know what to do with the airport, Hutchinson Whampoa got tired of the codependency they had of each other. And then here we come tippy-toeing, warning instead of enforcing people to do what they're supposed to do. We go into the room. This is what we do. Let's finish the call. I can finish to answer this. Go ahead.
Yeah. Caller, welcome to GPS.
I hope you're doing well.
Well, thank you.
Mr. Sidney Walter McCarthy Thompson.
Yes, hey, how are you, Brother Allen?
I'm okay.
Let me just say this. See, we have a constitution of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, which is the supreme law of the land. I listened to all these conversations on the radio, but no one refers to the Constitution. I hear arguments back and forth with this one, that one, and the next thing. I close my ears to all of that because that's not important to me.
Let me just quote one section of the Constitution. No man, woman, or child shall ever be slave or bondsman to anyone. No man, woman, or child shall ever have their lives frustrated by deprivation. No man, woman, or child shall ever have their labor exploited. Do you know that's the responsibility of the government of the Bahamas? The Constitution says some other things too about the government of the Bahamas. It also says specifically what a representative in a particular constituency ought to be doing for that particular constituency. It seems to me as if people get mixed up between party representation and parliamentary representation, and there's a big difference between the two. If you want to be a party, fine, you can have that. The Constitution says you can have that, but you don't have to be them. So the government of the Bahamas is what we need to concentrate on. What is the government doing? Is it solving national problems? Are representatives performing the functions that are specifically outlined in the Constitution on behalf of their constituents? These are the things that are important. And then a person shifts from one party to the next. That's their personal view. The Constitution allows for that. So why have a big argument on the air? You shift from this position to that. That is a personal thing. It should never even come on the air. Now, when we talk about the government of the Bahamas, when we talk about what a parliamentarian ought to do, that's a different kettle of fish. Thank you very much, Ms. Thompson.
All right, thank you for calling.
And believe it or not, that very part of the Constitution read is what I live by. That's why I'm not subject to being any of those things being deprived of anything. And I'm saying to people, if we all get together and do the same thing, then we'll recognize where our power is. The power of the people is and shall always be greater than the people in power. And so when we recognize that we are the ones with the power and they simply have the authority to act on our behalf for 5 years. But again, like Mr. Thompson said, the Constitution is the supreme document. If we follow that, we wouldn't be where we are now, because what we do is we make believe things. We accept things without question. Oh, we have a gender inequality, but you can't show it to me in the Constitution. Oh, the Constitution don't allow us to own banks or casinos. Can't show it to me in the Constitution. You know, Mr. Mitchell first was this gender thing where the people says, oh, Sinead, I heard Mr. Mitchell in charge of citizenship in this administration. They made the statement. He made the comment and corrected them to say, look, there is no such thing as her child being registered as a citizen. She just needs to make the request, and I'll make the child a citizen. She says the laws already allow for it. It's not enshrined in the Constitution, but it says that a child born to a married woman under the Bahamas, based on our immigration laws, can become a citizen of the Bahamas upon request. But where's this thing? Oh, we need to have a referendum so the child can be whatever. Guess what? The Constitution itself doesn't transfer citizenship. It's the immigration laws that put in statute laws what the Constitution protects that gives you citizenship. So a woman has the same right to citizenship as a man does, and a man has the same right to a woman. Now, we can have some arguments concerning processes and legislation that need to be changed. But don't tell me the Constitution discriminates, because it does not. The Constitution cannot discriminate. And so, but we allow them to tell us these things. The Constitution gives us consent to, if we want to create a law, that we can't sue for that discrimination. But it says, if the Constitution says, C. Allen Johnson, you have a right to beat your wife, I don't have to exercise that right, but it's there should I want to. I can't be sued. So what I'm simply saying, these things they talk about, what the Constitution says is what they've been told. And again, it goes, the opinion of 1,000 men is of no value if none of them knows anything they speak about. And like what Mr. Thompson say, we got 1,000 men speaking about something they know nothing about.
Okay, real solutions that we can hit the ground running with right now today, if we so decide.
You know, believe it or not, right? Oh, quickly on the airport. Mm-hmm. The Port Authority was in no financial position for a number of years, almost 2 decades, to meet the influx of capital that is necessary to develop the airport. I keep using this word, develop the airport, like we think it's supposed to be, to make it beautiful. Okay, like they say, you ain't a woman unless you got on a pretty dress. That's what they saying with the airport. I say, no matter what she's wearing, she's a woman, even if she's naked. So that's the problem we have. So what they did is they then found a way, and Hutchison Whampoa, once again, is the one who offloaded it. The Port Authority didn't sell the airport to them. That's almost like an agreement between Hutchison Whampoa and the airport, whatever. So we went and buy it because we says, if you don't know how to be a woman, well, I'll be one. So what happens is we took on the responsibility. You can't blame them. You know, Barnum Daly said it all right. The suckers born every moment that they got one. And so essentially now we have taken on the responsibility for the development of the airport, except that now we have individuals that don't even know how the airport run. Again, I explained to you what the airport does, what does it do. But if you go to any board of this government and ask them again, what is you here to do again? That's right. That's the problem. Ambition greater than ability. And so you can't fix. You said you cannot manage what you cannot measure, but you cannot measure what you can't even comprehend or acknowledge. And that's the problem we have. And we could dress it up how we want. And then, you know what? I love the way callers call. I wish when people sit in the seat, those who have sat in the seat and those who are sitting in the seat would call me out. I mean, I hear people, they make it, all kind of people make comments on the radio and they do press release. Why nobody do no press release for me? You can't do a press release and even say, yeah, I'm right. Help a brother out. Help a brother out, you know. I got a little ego too, I want. You don't got to feed it because, you know, trust me, I wasn't born with a head this big group. But what I'm simply saying is that when we talk about the economy, let me give one good point to the Grand Bahama Port Authority, because a lot of people may not know it. Not necessarily to the Port Authority, but one of the principals, Mr. Rupert Haywood. Long before Brave Davis became an expert on carbon credits, and, you know, the environmentalists were all of us, the guy that wanted to dig for oil, you know, and throw the Bahamas into an oil muck, before he became such aware. He's not necessarily aware because he still believes that carbon credits and drilling for oil goes together. So I'm a little confused. But what happens is that Rupert Haywood tapped into an idea called Blue Action Lab. I think he's done a piss poor job of promoting what it is or what the potential is. It is actually part of the carbon economy. His concept is part of the carbon economy for which we're trying to adjust. The carbon economy today is a multi-billion-dollar economy, and by 2030 will be $1 trillion economy. And so we are the precipice of where we are. And so if only the government knew the environmental aspect of what they're trying to do, beyond the thieving, as the people say, of our sovereign assets by stripping us of its value. And we'll have a show one day on what a sovereign wealth fund is and should be, as opposed to the garbage they gave us before. And so, you know, you don't know any better. So they give you garbage over here, and then they come and replace it with an even bigger bag of garbage. And you complain and say, I wish I had the smaller bag of garbage because this bigger bag of garbage it ain't going to taste right. So what happens is, going back to what he has something called a carbon economy. And from that, within the carbon economy comes the circular economy, and the green economy is part of that. In fact, my wife, Eden Mary Johnson, now used to be Gator, did a number of episodes on the various different economic model, and she even came up with a model called the aqua marine economy that could only occur in the Bahamas. And so here it is that we are sitting as the largest possible person to make an argument in this carbon economy, but we are too busy in our political tribalism to include all of us as part of it in $1 trillion economy to make sure that we all be prepared. But here's what Mr. Rupert has done. He has taken the green economy, the carbon economy, the conceptual economy, whether he knows this or not, the knowledge economy, the shared economy, the creative economy, and the data economy, because that's what he's doing, collecting, creating data, such as what's the call place name, Vita. And so these things are actually part of. It doesn't go in depth as the aquamarine economy that my wife has prepared, but it's actually a wonderful model that we could build off, maybe incorporate into the aquamarine economy and own the whole name, that he can still have his Blue Action Lab, but the Bahamas itself can adopt the Blue the aquamarine economy type environment. Mm-hmm. But what he is seeking to do is create or attract investors in that very specific economic model to come to the Bahamas. I know in the hospitality industry, and I want to touch on this because hospitality and tourism is our quickest way out of this quagmire that we're in. And so I think it's the sixth census that's going to come here. It's a little way off, but it's going to have to be some changes. I heard them mention the airport also, and I'm sure the only reason they mentioned the airport because they got you through the airport. What they're meaning is they bring luxury clients and they want the people to arrive in luxury and look at luxury, whatever, because of the high-end clients that they will be servicing to. So it's basically more aesthetics they're looking at as opposed to an actual functioning airport. I'm sure the people who come to Sixth Census will not be using Bahamas Air or one of the other airlines. They're gonna so it's a whole different clientele, and so that's an opportunity we have to tap into. For the mere fact that he's trying to rebuild and revitalize the impact and shore up the what has happened in the impact from Grand Bahama, from the destruction of the mangroves to the seagrass to I had the opportunity to speak to him about building buffers around the islands and whatever else. He's just never come to the public. So that's a start. If only the Grand Bahama Port Authority would take that and some of the ideas they have in this other blueprint they did called the reef structure. This is not a blueprint. This is a book of ideas. And so that we have to develop strategies from these book of ideas. Just like the National Development Plan, it's a wonderful book of ideas. I wish somebody would show me one strategy. I got $100 for you. You could just point out one strategy in the National Development Plan. Now here's what happens. In the hospitality industry, we hear people talk about leaving hospitality. We need to grow in. Hospitality is the quickest thing because the economy has changed the way hospitality is. They said we need about 10,000 rooms on Grand Bahama to be viable. And these are the activities. So we need the rooms tonight. Forget the hotel. We need to build 10,000 rooms, whether it's by duplexes or fourplexes or 25 units, whatever. We need to have that plan. We need a master plan for hospitality. But at the same time, we need a master plan for tourism, sports tourism, education tourism. Every single year, thousands of individuals are denied entry into the United States. Mm-hmm. Digitalization of the global economy now allows us to offer education tourism. They can attend any university they want in the Bahamas online from the Bahamas. Why they wouldn't attend in their country? They don't have the digital infrastructure to give them the consistency of connection and the clarity, whatever else. They don't give them access to the U.S. without actually going there like we can provide. So educational tourism, we should have almost every university they're trying to set us up. Masterful, the data economy. We can pass some laws. Some of these require some modifications of some laws. The data economy is where the world now is anticipating. The world is looking for data privacy, data protection, and data sovereignty. The Bahamas is the only place in the world, or the 202 countries, 192 part of the United Nations, that give constitutional data privacy, constitutional data protection, constitutional data sovereignty. So if we was to pass the legislation, allow people to become digital citizens like they do in Estonia, and say if you become a citizen of the Bahamas, that your data will be protected, your data will have, you have privacy and you have sovereignty in owning it. And we could pass legislation the same way the way GDPR in the UK does. Anyway, you hold data on their citizens, you abide by their rules. So when you hold citizens on our data. So you put that data economy in Grand Bahama because you can't put it anywhere else because you're going to have to start establishing some data centers and other different things.
There's one thing, though, Sian, that could throw a monkey in the wrench, or I don't know if that's the right way to put it, against all of these plans. And this is something that has plagued Grand Bahama in recent times, and that is environmental damage from things like killer storms, etc. We're going to take a quick break.
Let me say something.
Let me take this break.
Okay.
And then we're going to let you see what you got to say on the other side. Stay with us. We'll be back.
Blood sugar levels play a key role in your appetite, weight gain, and overall health. When you have a blood sugar spike, you can feel confused, dizzy, and even have increased cravings. Eating carbohydrates, sugary or fatty foods, and not exercising can all cause blood sugar spikes. But now you have help in managing blood sugar levels. Sweeties by Youngevity was designed to help support healthy blood sugar levels, so you can power through your day. It's a synergistic blend of minerals, herbs, and nutrients that have been proven to support healthy blood sugar levels. Sweeties includes chromium, an essential trace mineral that's known for its contribution to healthy blood sugar levels and improved metabolism of carbohydrates, fats, and proteins. Cinnamon bark has been included for its naturally occurring antioxidants and support of a healthy heart. And we've even added gymnema. It's been used in Ayurveda for centuries to help promote healthy blood sugar. All the ingredients in Sweeties work together to give the best support available for blood sugar control. Sweeties, the blood sugar support supplement from Youngevity that helps control cravings and manage blood sugar levels through your day. To learn more, contact your Youngevity associate.
Welcome to Sunshine Auto, the hardest place on the planet for rims, tints, and tires.
We are your auto superstore for rims, Lexani, Azaras, Trueform, Western, Lux, Fuel, Trackline, Tough, Rough Racing, Velocity, Mud, All-Terrain, and low-profile tires, cars, homes, and commercial window tinting. At Sunshine Auto, we put God first and customer is king.
Blessed love.
As you age, factors like health, weight, diet, and lifestyle can all impact your bones, joints, and general mobility. Even everyday exercise can lead to wear and tear on your body. Over time, you might start to experience stiffness or pain due to damaged joints or connective tissue. Ultimate Glucogel by Youngevity was created to help you limit the effects of wear on your joints. It delivers a daily dose of collagen-rich gelatin your body needs for joint elasticity and maintenance. Ultimate Glucogel contains a 1-to-1 ratio of gelatin and glucosamine sulfate, which is a key building block of your bone matrix, cartilage, ligaments, tendons, and connective tissue. Gelatin's unique blend of amino acids not only help with muscle and joint health, but also has been shown to provide additional benefits for the brain, skin, and hair. Ultimate Glucogel. Natural, optimal daily support for joint health. To learn more, contact your Youngevity associate.
Okay,
we only have 4 minutes. A few minutes. Just let me say, I just want people to understand my perspective on Grand Bahama is because of those individuals that has passed on and alive today that's consistently pour in me. I'm the collective intelligence of all those individuals that continuously feed me with information. I'd like to thank Google and Bing also. They've been very helpful in the expansion of my knowledge base concerning the impact of the globe on my economy, more so Grand Bahama. And so when you talk about, Michelle, is if you take what the Port Authority is trying to do, but here's what again, it comes to nothing for us without us. Remember, those same individuals, many of them are alive right here in Grand Bahama. If you bring all of us around a table and have a conversation where you challenge what we say, and if you don't know, admit you don't know, we can actually create an ecosystem for all of these things to happen. Smart homes, smart businesses, smart communities, smart city, smart island, eventually a smart country, and hopefully even smart leaders. But what happens is the quickest to market is the hospitality and tourism industry. That is going to grow. The fifth social revolution is just changing the way tourism and hospitality happens. So we just have to adopt and adapt to the new environment. And basically, let's look at the airport and the hotel rooms we need for them to sleep in and the activities for which they're coming, whether it be medical tourism, educational tourism, as visitors, for sports tourism, golfing, swimming, whatever it is, the environment more so, for the pristine environment for which we have and which we will restore. And when you talk about what happens, remember now, we sit on the same plateau as the state of Florida and everybody in the Gulf. You don't see them running away saying, oh my God, we don't need to build whatever. Countries I know live where tsunamis happen, where typhoons happen, and everything, and they are building also. We just can't do what we've been doing, expecting different results. But we need to have the economies of scale to allow individuals to make the monies to build resilient type environment. And so this is why I would like for us to engage and have a conversation with Rupert Hayward, myself and my wife concerning this aquamarine economy and his incorporation of what he intends to do with the Blue Action Lab. I hear him mention that they're going to be developing 2,000 acres. Let's find out exactly what that is so that we can then develop in synergy with that. But when we talk about what the government want to do, nothing for us without us. When we talk about what happens to the Grand Port Authority, nothing for us without us. Let's come to the table with the truth. Bring out all the hidden documents and let's plot a path from where we are to where we want to be. And that is the biggest problem we have. So I tell government, stop your foolishness for taking the Port Authority. The Port Authority, you're going to stop your foolishness of doing what you've been doing, expecting a different result. And the Bahamian people, we need to wake up and stand up. But I say to this, you cannot, it says power concedes nothing without a demand. And it does not concede to the demand of an emasculated constituent. You cannot demand anything from anyone, including me, on your knees. We have to stand up, and we must get together.
All right, good point to end on. Thank you so much, C. Allen, for your always thought-provoking contribution. I know one thing, that no matter what your position as it relates to your political affiliation, especially if you are in Grand Bahama or from Grand Bahama, you know that we need to put aside our differences and come together to make sure we understand what needs to happen to make it work. Because we can no longer afford, you can no longer afford to have anything other than that happen.
Yeah, if you can't do Providence, fix Grand Bahama.
My time is gone. Thank you, C. Allen. That's my time, folks. It's 4 o'clock. Got to get out of here. Tomorrow's a TGIF open mic show. Be sure to tune in so we can talk about the week that was, because you are the most important part of that show. Until then, I'm Michelle Malcolm. Have a great afternoon, everybody.
Global 99.5 FM. One source for R&B and Bahama. Steve Harvey here from the Steve Harvey Morning Show. Everybody knows that